Sorry?
Biochemistry.
Awesome. Okay. Great. Very interdisciplinary bunch. So at the end, I'll be giving you guys a little bit of some tips related to additional Adobe opportunities. And believe it or not, Adobe actually has a scholarship program or several scholarship programs specifically dedicated to students pursuing technical degrees. I won't be talking about that specifically in this presentation, but if you search up Adobe Technical Scholarships, you'll get a website full of them. So I highly recommend you guys taking a look at that afterwards. Wes, are we good to go?
We're good to go.
Awesome. All right. But so the scholarship that I'm here to talk to you guys about today is called the Adobe Design Circle Scholarship. I am currently and have been a scholar for this specific scholarship program since 2020. I was actually part of the first cohort of the scholarship. It is a relatively new one, and I'll be sharing my experiences with you, and expanding upon what the scholarship is about, how you guys apply for it, all of that other stuff, so that you guys can get more information and be prepared to apply the next time applications open. Before we talk about that, a little bit information about me. I am a super senior. I'm graduating at the end of this semester. The reason I'm a super senior is because I'm pursuing 2 degrees, graphic design and environmental science and policy. I am a UX UI designer professionally. I also do product management. I'm the chief product officer at Y Cities, which is a startup shell startup venture. I am also the owner of Art Club, which is an international creative community partnered with Discord. I teach a UX UI class here at UMP called Idea 258U. And lastly, what we're here to talk about today is that I'm an Adobe Design Circle Scholar, and that's going to be the focus for the rest of this. So before we get into the scholarship, it's important for me to let you guys know what the Adobe Design Circle itself is. It's essentially a collaboration of design leaders working together to drive positive impact on business, society, innovation, cultures, and design careers. It consists of currently 27 industry leaders from Microsoft, Facebook, Airbnb, Samsung, Adobe, Twitter, NPR, Apple, and a bunch of other companies, to name a few. If you're interested about seeing all who are on the roster, scan this link. It'll take you to the Adobe Design Circle website, and you can scroll down, read more about the individual designers. It has links so you can see their websites. It also has articles that are written by them, and just goes over the premise of the design circle as a whole. But these guys are the mentors for the scholarship. So the Adobe Design Circle Scholarship essentially awards 10 annual college scholarships up to $25,000 per year for each recipient, up to $100,000 total over 4 years. Yes, that is correct. This scholarship is one that keeps on giving throughout your undergraduate career. If you get it 1 year, you have it for the rest of your undergraduate degree, so long as you meet the requirements on a yearly basis and make sure you get all your documents in. It is a very simple, straightforward process. The individuals who manage the scholarship are always there to support you, very friendly. They will answer all of your questions, and they'll let you know when things are due, when you need to schedule meetings, all of that other stuff. So you won't be scrambling to get things done at the last minute. You'll be given advance notice of things. But essentially, how do you qualify for this scholarship? Well, it's only for undergraduate students at this current point in time. So if you are an undergraduate student, now is the time to apply, because it'll apply for the rest of your undergraduate degree program. You must be in an accredited degree program or attending and enrolled in an accredited university or college. Y'all go to University of Maryland, I'm assuming, which means y'all are good. It is an international scholarship. It is not limited to the United States. We do have scholars in Europe, we have scholars from Asia, we have scholars from Africa, we have scholars from all over the world, and everyone is extremely talented. That does make this more competitive because it's not just a national pool, it is an international pool that they are pulling from, and the number of universities that do qualify does increase drastically. It is focused and geared towards those who are pursuing product or experience design. However, I do know scholars who focus on motion design, video design, filmmaking, graphic design. Pretty much, if you can make a good case for how you're using design for social impact, you have a chance of getting it, but it is geared towards product and experience design, and it is focused on underrepresented design groups. So first generation college students, ethnic minority students, students with disabilities, and LGBTQ plus identifying students. If you scan this QR code, you're going to get the entire website for eligibility. This one goes to the eligibility page, so if you're interested in learning more details than just this about whether you qualify, who's eligible, scan this, it'll pull up that website, you can read at your leisure. All right, so how do you apply to this scholarship? Well, you have to complete an online application form with personal information. There are a few essay questions, and then there is a personal written or video statement. The written statement is 500 words. The video statement is 3 minutes long. It is flexible regarding, like, you're not disadvantaged if you do one or the other. They look at both equally. So definitely pick whichever one you feel like is your strength. You need to include also your estimated expected tuition and fees. They base how much money they give you based on how much your educational experience costs. So you may get the full $25,000 per year. You may get less than that depending on your tuition and how much you're able to cover of it. So for example, I get about $12,600, $12,200 per year. You need 2 reference letters. They're not from family. You're not allowed to send reference letters from family. They have to be from employers, professors, anyone that you feel like you have worked with, have demonstrated your skills to, and can write you a recommendation letter. It involves your high school transcript. It also involves your college or university transcript as necessary. I submitted both because I applied once I had gotten into undergraduate degrees. So if I was in my sophomore year when I applied to this, and a portfolio of up to 3 pieces. The deadline for the scholarship is typically March 15th. I am in communication with the scholarship coordinator to see if it's going to be offered this year or if they're going to wait until next year to offer it again. But and if you're interested in staying updated on whether it's going to be offered this year or next year, feel free to reach out to me and I can send you all an email once I hear back from her. She told me she'll keep me updated. They're just going through the scholarship meeting right now. And they should have a decision by early March, so the deadline will likely be pushed back. But next year, if it is going to be offered next year, the deadline will be March 15th. You will be notified whether you get accepted around June. Information about the application process can be found at this QR code, so if you're interested in learning more details about what the application process is like, you can feel free to scan this one. Do you want me to go back? There you go. All right, so what are they looking for in an ideal candidate? Well, they're looking for achievement and potential in a design field. Like I said, they prefer experience or product design, but it can be general as long as you make a good case. Demonstrated leadership potential and ability, personal character, commitment, and potential for positive social change. That is what sets the scholarship apart from a lot of other design scholarships in terms of the students they're looking for. It's really social impact driven. So if you have done work before or engaged in opportunities that leave an impact, a positive impact on your community, you'll definitely want to highlight those. Clearly expressed financial need to support educational goals, career and academic goals in line with the stated scholarship objectives, which were provided in the previous QR codes, and then really compelling references. So you really want to take the time to consider who you have complete those references for you because it will matter substantially. Is it worth it at the end of the day? This sounds like a lot of work. It is a lot of work. I went through the application process myself. It was stressful, but is it worth it? 100,000, whatever, how many zeros this is, yes. I'm being serious about this, and the reason is because it will unlock your future career. It will catapult you forward years ahead of your peers. And I'm not saying this to exaggerate. I'm saying this based on personal experience, where I was before I got the scholarship, where I am now after the scholarship, and also because of the mentorship program, which is another reason that sets this scholarship apart. So you are paired with a world-class mentor. And I'm not talking about somebody who's been working at Apple for a year. I'm talking about design executives at Apple, design executives at Microsoft, at NPR, at major FANG companies, at major other companies. They are part of this circle. They are leaders in this industry, and they know their stuff. You get monthly mentorship meetings and guidance from these mentors on absolutely anything. They can review your assignments, they can review your portfolio, they can review if you're working on a startup here at Startup Shell, they can review your designs for that, pitch decks they can review. Anything under the sun that you feel like would better your chances of a career moving forward, they will take a look at and give you their feedback on an iterative process. They are there to help you, and all of them are super willing. They are the nicest people I have ever met, so that's a major thing. Unique perks and opportunities to get involved at Adobe. They recently changed the structure of the scholarship so that the first year you get in, you get paired with a design leader across the industry space, and then subsequent years you get paired with an individual, a design leader who works at an Adobe office. This gives you opportunities to internships with Adobe. This gives you opportunities for attending the conference for free. This gives you opportunities for using the software. By the way, didn't include this on the slide, but all scholars get the entire Adobe suite 100% for free for their entire undergraduate degree, plus 1 year after they graduate, which is a major thing, especially now that I'm graduating, that I'm glad to have because it'd be expensive. Yes, like I said, you do get to attend Adobe Max for free. Adobe Max is the annual conference that Adobe puts on. It is a very large conference. It is typically held in San Francisco or Las Vegas. I forget which one. But if you do decide to attend in person, I think one of the perks is that you get certain things for free. Obviously, they have made the conference majority online now. The conference happens in October each year. It's the middle of exam season for us. Midterms will be full swing, but I highly recommend you attend it online if you haven't already. Why? Because it also unlocks major opportunities for you. You do get internship career opportunities. If you prove your mettle to your mentors, you have the opportunity to potentially get an internship at their company. They will vouch for you. They will connect you to people who can vouch for you. They might have you fly out to do conferences with them, to maybe shadow them. It's a lot of opportunities, and it is a hella resume builder. And the reason for that is because you will be one of 10 out of 10,000, if not more, people who get selected. That is a massive number internationally. It is not a small deal to have this on your resume because it really means a lot. You are the cream of the crop in terms of the next generation of designers. That's something to be proud of. But yes, this will look good on your resume. So, I've talked about kind of the perks you get. One of the major perks is your mentors. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to the mentors that I've had the pleasure of working with during my time as part of this scholarship and as an Adobe scholar. I keep in frequent contact with all of them. They are all the greatest. I really enjoy talking to them. So Daniel Burka, he is one of my mentors. I've had him since 2020 as one of my mentors. He's absolutely great. He designed the original Firefox. He designed the original Mozilla. He designed Glitch, which is actually now, fun fact, Slack. So he was the original designer of the Slack interface before it became a communication software. It was actually intended to be a game, if you did not know that. He was a Google Ventures design partner for about 5 years, and he did sell a company to Google Ventures. And he wrote the book Sprint. For those of you who are not familiar with the book Sprint, it is the book on agile development processes. He was part of that. He's absolutely amazing. He speaks at conferences all the time, and it is a pleasure knowing him. Andy Vitale is another one of my mentors who is absolutely great. He's the Executive VP of Design at Rocket Companies. He used to be the UX Director at Polaris, and he used to be the head of UX at Truist. He is an international keynote speaker. That is what he is known for. He loves speaking at conferences around the world, from India to the United States to Europe and beyond. He really knows his stuff and is amazing at managing teams at a high functioning level. Sarah Brooks is another one of my mentors. She was the Chief Design Officer for the Obama administration, which is not something small. She was also the IBM design director, and she was labeled as its distinguished designer for 2 years in a row. And she's now a design lead at Apple. She recently got a new job there. She's very excited. She relocated back to California, and she's been having a blast of a time working with Apple Health products. Matt Moore is actually one of my most recent mentors who works at Adobe. I got partnered with him this past year, and he has been absolutely great. He is an Adobe visual design lead. He used to be the art director at Tableau, and for those of you who are interested in startups and in pitching, he teaches how to give pitch presentations as a profession. He goes to the different organizations and the different groups in Adobe, and he teaches them how to pitch ideas, how to pitch their designs, how to present to very large stakeholders, so he really knows his stuff regarding that. Liz Danzico was my mentor for about a year. I still keep in semi-frequent contact with her. She's currently a VP of Design at Microsoft. She was a senior VP of Design at NPR, and she is a Master of Fine Arts Interactive Design Chair at a college in New York City. I think it's the Visual Arts College of Design or something like that. But she really knows her stuff as well. She's very connected to the graduate programs across the nation for design. So she is awesome. And then finally, Erica Hall is not really directly one of my mentors. She got connected to me via Daniel. She is on the Adobe Design Circle, and she is a mentor for you to choose or get paired with. She wrote Just Enough Research, which is essentially the book on user research. It is the standard. She founded her own design company, and she now serves as a design consultant nationally. So those were my mentors, and every single one of them is absolutely amazing. I've been talking with them on a monthly basis for the past 3 years. I've developed very good relationships with them, and I can tell you guys that they have really pushed my career forward because they know their stuff. So in terms of my experience with this program, with my mentors, and the scholarship in general, I have been a scholar since 2020. I've received a scholarship every single year since that point, and I was part of the original cohort, so I have seen the scholarship adapt and grow over time. I also manage its Discord server. So in terms of my experience with this scholarship, I've gotten advice on all of my major projects, on Art Club, on Y Cities, on my portfolio, on the class that I teach. All of my mentors have been happy to help out in any way, shape, or form. They're willing to help out over email. They're willing to help out over Zoom meetings. You know, they're just there to help, and it's been super great because it's really elevated my design over time, because it wasn't that great when I got the scholarship, to be honest. But they've been super helpful in just helping me feel confident about the projects that I'm working on. They get you connected. They know everyone who is everyone in this field. They know everyone who is everyone in the conference field. They know everyone who is everyone in the business field. Why? Because they are very, very high up individuals. So like I said, Daniel connected me to Erica. Daniel's also working to have me speak at an international conference this year, so he's going to coordinate with some of his conference scheduling and coordinating buddies to see if I can get a place speaking. And he's willing to connect me with essentially the old world, or the, let's say, what's the right word for it? Just really top-notch designers in the industry. They give you a good word. They will also review your portfolio. I've been working on my portfolio for a total of 9 months at this point in time, because if you want to get a killer job that you deserve, your portfolio really needs to reflect what you're capable of, and that's not something you can do in a weekend. That's something that you're going to have to do over time, and they are more than happy to review it for me. They can connect you with internships. I know a lot of my scholar peers have gotten internships under the person that they were mentored with or paired with. It gives you professional opportunities, like I said, speaking at conferences, working on projects, and you also get amazing recommendation letters for whatever job you end up with after you go through this program. So that's really just a run-through of the scholarship in general, what it is, who it's for, how you qualify, how you apply, and just a little bit of my experience and my time with my mentors during this program. But now I would like to open it up to Q&A, because I'm really here to answer your guys' questions related to the scholarship. You can ask me about the Adobe Design Scholarship, particularly with application and applying was like for me. You can ask me me about any of my experiences with my mentors, I'm happy to share and go into further detail about that, what it's like working alongside or being an Adobe scholar, anything like that. If you want to ask questions about any of my other experiences, you're welcome to. But this is just your time, so I can open it up to questions now. Yeah.
What type of things are they looking for in a portfolio?
All right, so when I applied, they leave it really, really broad. And the reason is because the scholarship is open to people who are interested in getting into a field but haven't really done anything in that field yet. So for example, I knew I wanted to get into UX, UI design. I had only done one UX project by the time that I was applying. All my other projects had just been pure graphic design projects, so like magazine design, icon design, vector design, stuff like that. And that's really all that I could put in my portfolio was, the magazine work that I did, the icon work that I did, and then I included the one UX project that I did. What they're really looking for is your aptitude. Is your design foundations, is your knowledge of design principles as, really stellar, and does it show capacity for growth and for learning? So in terms of portfolio pieces, you should not just be submitting images without any words. You should be submitting fully created, fully drafted case studies. So explaining your process, explaining your thinking, what choices you made and why did you make them. If you're unfamiliar with what a case study is in the design world, just type up design case study, UX design case study, graphic design case study, and it will show you step by step how to write one, but your thought process really, really matters. So I submitted, I think, like PNG formats of my case studies. I think you could also include links, so I included links to my Behance, which is an Adobe product, so I think you can integrate that directly. And I guess I got selected, but your portfolio, it more matters about your application, your thought process, your aptitude, and your commitment to social change rather than, I want to go into UX and I'm doing all UX stuff right now. Obviously that would be helpful to you, but it's not necessary. Does that make sense? Right. Any other questions? Yes. You know what? I don't really know because I didn't expect to get the scholarship. I kind of applied on a whim because it was like whenever you hear international scholarship, you get a little bit daunted. Why? Because it's not just like a local scholarship. It's not just a school scholarship or even a national scholarship. It's international. So I just seen like my honors college had sent out an advertisement for it. I saw it. I was like, you know what? This would be really cool. Sounds like a great opportunity. I'm gonna apply. And then I got selected, which was weird. But in terms of what I think made me stand out, I think it was likely because I don't want to say my design skill because it was really not the best when I applied. Like I look back at the stuff that I submitted and I cringe. None of that stuff is really still on my portfolio today because it's just not relevant and it's not very good. But what I think really stood out to them was my concern for the end user. For experience design, for product design, being concerned about the end user is something that's extremely important. You're not just designing for yourself, you're not just designing for aesthetics, you're not just designing for the sake of designing. You're designing to create something for somebody else, and you want whatever you create to be optimized for that person. And that's why I recommend don't just submit an image, you want to go into depth about your thought process. I went into depth about my thought process throughout the entire case study. I did research on how to write case studies before I submitted. I really put in the time to make my case study stand out and look visually appealing. Another thing that I think stood out was my commitment to social change. And that's what you really need to emphasize in your personal statements, whether you do a video or a written one. The prompt is going to be something like, what does social change mean to you as a designer? Something like that. And I went hardcore. Not because I was being superficial about it, but because I'm really committed to social change as an individual. It's what I enjoy doing. It's my passion. So if you can really make yourself shine in that way, show your aptitude and really just put in the effort, I think that will make you stand out, you know? Because like, I cringe at my old stuff that I submitted. One thing that I will say is your applications are reviewed by the mentors themselves. So they are the ones that select you along with the scholarship board. So, and they're looking for people who they believe will make a difference, you know, who will push for the design field for the better after they get the scholarship, right? Any other questions? Yes?
Would you like to break down, for example, one of the projects you work with your advisors in your program, progressing the UX design experience of just one?
Yeah, of course. So I've had them look at a lot of the projects that I've worked on. I think the most impactful one was something called Conservationist.io. I was an intern at Defenders of Wildlife for their Center for Conservation Innovation for about 2 years. And I was the only designer on the team. They had no design supervisor, they had no co-designers. I was legit the only design person, and there were 2 devs and there was 1 data analyst, and we were the tech team. And we were tasked with creating, developing, designing, and testing essentially a web app suite for conservation professionals that replaced or could serve as a substitute for a lot of the outdated tech that they use. The conservation field really hasn't caught up to the development of technology yet. They're still using very outdated products, and while the functionality is there, they're still learning that design is just as important as functionality when it comes to usability and user experience. They realized that there was a problem. And the problem was a lot of the software that was available to conservational professionals at that point in time was just not cutting it in terms of usability and was not cutting it in terms of optimization. So they had come up with a bunch of app ideas. They had built out a few. They had created a landing page. And they were like, oh, we need somebody to design this. And they brought me on. And I took one look at what they did. And I was like, how the heck is anyone supposed to use this? You know, like, I don't even know how to navigate through this. I have no idea what any of this means. And I can speak to this from both the designer but also from a conservation professional because of my environmental science and policy degree. As an environmental science and policy student, if they had put in front of me any of their software in one of my classes and I was expected to use it, I would not have been able to complete the task. And that was an issue. Was I qualified to fix that problem for them? Absolutely not. I was an intern. I had no idea what I was doing at that point in time. I was still learning, still growing, but I was faced with this task of either not helping them or doing a subpar job or really fixing the root of the issue. But I knew that I couldn't do this alone, even without a supervisor. So my mentors helped me tremendously with this project. I came to them with questions. I showed them my mock-ups. I showed them my design strategy. I showed them the designs for the branding, all of that stuff, and they gave me opinions. They were like, you know what, you probably shouldn't use lorem ipsum here. You know what, that interface doesn't really make that much sense. The branding is a little bit weak right now. It feels very template-y. You want to kind of give it more personality. You know, maybe you should do this. So I went through maybe a total of 3 design iterations of this entire app suite, which at the end of it consisted of a full landing dashboard and suite and page with about 27 pages. It consisted of 5 apps, each with about 30 design screens to it, an entire custom set of components, custom pattern library, custom style guide, custom brand, custom language, 3 user research studies, and I did all of that by myself as the sole designer across 2 years. And I would have not known where to start, what direction to go in, how to even approach the project if I hadn't received guidance from this expert team of mentors from the outside. They really supported me. They gave me the feedback that I needed to hear. Sometimes it was harsh, and that's okay because that's how you learn. They know their stuff because they've been doing this for a while. But it really was an amazing experience because at the end of the day, the interface was stellar. You could during the testing, you could tangibly see differences in results. It was a major improvement to the point that the Fish and Wildlife Service of the US government used some of my interfaces to power some of their systems today as an intern in my sophomore, junior year of college, which is saying a lot, you know? So that was one of the projects that I worked extensively with them on. Did they do the project for me? No. They didn't create any of the designs for me. They did not do any of the research for me. They did not draft me anything to use. They did not write any language for me. All they did was point me in the right direction and give me feedback when I was maybe straying a little bit. And then they left it up to me to take their feedback and apply it and continue to improve, which is really a mentality you're going to need to have if you're going to make the most out of a scholarship like this. Any other questions? Yes?
Where did you learn everything that you know about design?
Thanks, guys. I did not really learn much from my degree here. And that's not because the degree program is bad, that's because I learned everything before I entered into the degree program through this scholarship and through my internship opportunities. So I went the graphic design route. So right now there are different ways and different paths you can take at UMD if you're going in the UX UI route or the product design route. You can either go through InfoSci, you can go through immersive media design, you can go through graphic design, or you can start out in computer science and learn design skills along the way. Any of those are fine paths moving forward. I chose the graphic design path because when I was here, immersive media design did not exist. InfoSci was maybe a year old and required a heavy coding prerequisite, and graphic design was all that was left. Now the graphic design program starts your junior year. It's something you apply to. It is very competitive. Only about 56 students get accepted each year. And so I couldn't wait or rely on that to begin my education and in a career that I knew I wanted to pursue. So my freshman year, I started applying to internships right off the bat. I knew absolutely nothing. I knew absolutely nothing, but it was worth a shot because I knew that I would put in the effort to learn on the job. I actually ended up getting an internship because I networked well, and it was at a smaller company that focused on the housing space. Called Credit Expert. They essentially design software for mortgage originators and loan officers to help them match and predict credit scores to help people get houses. I love the mission. It helps people who are struggling with their credit, struggling with their financials to be able to afford a house. I found that very interesting because I'm very dedicated to social impact. So I was like, you know what, this would be a great option for me. The reason I got the scholarship was not because I knew anything about design, it was because I knew how to manage communities. And what the internship was for was to design and develop a pilot platform, community platform for their user testers and their user research participants to bring them all in one place to test new releases, new features, all of that stuff in a much more efficient manner. So I got that internship the summer right after my freshman year. It was a very big culture shock because I had no idea what I was doing, but I had an amazing supervisor, and I will take the time right now to let you guys know a good supervisor is going to get you a lot farther than necessarily the company that you work at. Always choose your initial jobs, your initial internships, based on the availability of a supervisor, because they will teach you a lot more and get you a lot farther than necessarily the company name that you put on your resume in terms of developing your skill sets. So my supervisor was very experienced. He had a lot of industry experience under his belt. He didn't tell me what to do, but he provided me a lot of guidance on what I should look up and what I should research. He pointed me in the right direction, and I had to do the rest. So I worked on this internship for an entire summer. It was full-time, and during that summer, I essentially taught myself the intro to UX UI. I did online classes. YouTube was my best friend. I read tons of articles. Anytime I didn't know how to do something, I would research it, and then I would go to my supervisor and say, hey, I learned this about this for this task that you told me to do. I created something based on this knowledge. Is this in the right direction? He would say yes or no, and I would move forward and do more research from there. But it's a continual process of self-learning. So I learned a lot from that internship, and it did end up paying off because I was hired as a UX contractor immediately after that internship ended, which taught me a lot because I was able to continue working on the project that I had started out with. And then the summer after that, I got the internship at Defenders of Wildlife. And I just explained that one in depth. It required a lot from me as a sole designer because I didn't have a supervisor to be the sole voice of design for this project in a way that it was going to be successful. And I gave it my 110%. Same thing, I did all the research. I applied what I learned from my supervisor to that position in terms of software to use, in terms of technical things, procedure, optimization, and I just kept growing. And it wasn't until after that summer that I got into the graphic design concentration and my actual education in design began. And by that point in time, having talked to my mentors through all of these projects, having done all that research, having worked on these projects that were really, really big for somebody who really didn't know what the heck was going on, by the time I got to the graphic design concentration, I kind of knew what I was doing. And so the classes were relatively easy for me. So I kind of breezed my way through that degree program. It was a 2-year degree program. I finished it last year. I did learn stuff from it, but the core of the stuff that I learned was really through self-learning, through working on projects in the field, and through working with people who were much more experienced than I am, specifically these mentors who are willing to share their insights with me. Any other questions about the scholarship or about design or anything? Yes.
I do have a few technical questions.
Okay.
Yes, for the first one, for UX design, like every time some apps or websites are like this, do you feel currently there's a, I'm not sure in the field, I'm asking, do you feel there's a low code oriented extraction in this field? Like you don't need to code the whole stuff and you just practically drag the files, put everything where they are, or you still need to code a lot.
So, sorry, I can't really hear you from back here. Is your question, is this field more automated now?
Yes,
Okay.
or it's still heavy coding.
It's not. UI is heavily automated. UX is not. And there's a big difference between them. UI is just one step of the process of UX, and that's the visual side of actually creating interfaces, and that's becoming more automated with time. UX is not, because UX is based on research, and we don't have necessarily the software at this current point in time to supplement or substitute you working on research yourself, going out to the field, doing participation and observation, doing user interviews, doing field interviews, all of that types of research. That's what makes UX, is taking that research, analyzing it, and then using what you learned to create mandates to apply to a design. And the design is the last step, which is the UI part. So it will likely become more automated as time goes by, but it's not going to become 100% automated because it's such an extensive process. Maybe each individual step might become more automated, but you need somebody to carry things from one step to the other step to the other step. Each step is necessary in order to make a good product.
And the second technical question is what usually is the period of the UX design for a, let's say, small app for a few thousands users?
It varies depending on the complexity of the app. You need to be a little bit more specific than small, and I would need to know what the app is actually for, which is something that if you're curious and learning more about, I'd be happy to talk to you after the presentation to go in more detail, because I need to hear more information about what the app is for.
Yep.
All right.
Also, would you mind me this question?
Let me just see if there are there any
of
other
course.
questions related to the scholarship, to Adobe scholarships in general, to UX UI. Yeah.
Regarding your mentor relationship, I know you said you meet monthly, but how do you make sure you maintain that? How do you reach out to them for help with the project?
Yeah, of course. So I will say this scholarship is what you make out of it. You are responsible for managing your own mentor relationships. There are people who never talk to their mentors and they don't get the full benefit out of the scholarship, and that's on them. I recognize the benefit of the scholarship, so I was right off the bat, immediately as soon as I knew I got the scholarship and I figured out who I was matched with, I sent them out an introductory email. Usually the scholarship coordinator will introduce you to your mentors via email. So they will send the initial email linking you guys together, saying, hey, this is Kat, this is a little bit about her. Hey Kat, this is your mentor, this is a little bit about them. Please continue your email train, connect in whatever ways you feel necessary, and I hope you guys, have a good mentorship, relationship, or whatever, or something like that. So they'll start the relationship for you. It is then your obligation and your responsibility to keep it going. So generally some tips related to just being connected with mentors in general, you should be the one to send the first email. You should not wait for them to send the email to you, because that makes it seem like you don't care about them as much as you should. You're like, it's okay, if they get to me, they get to me, I want them to make the first move for me. Like, that's not the dynamic you want to give, especially when you're not as experienced. So after that initial introduction, immediately as soon as you get that email, you want to draft an email saying, hello, thank you so much for the introduction. It's a pleasure to meet you. I was reading about, your work online, and it's super fascinating. I'm so impressed and amazed by XYZ projects that you've worked on. A little bit about me, like she said, I do XYZ. It'd be great to schedule an introductory meeting so we could get to know each other better. When is your availability over the next month? And that's all. Obviously frame it a little bit more professionally than that, but that's all you really need to do. You send the email off to them, they'll get back to you when they get back to you, and they'll say something along the lines of, nice to meet you, it's great learning about you, I'm excited to be your mentor, I'm available XYZ, or this is how you can schedule a meeting with me, because some of them have personal assistants, and then you go ahead and you schedule a meeting with them. You're responsible for sending Zoom links to them, unless you are coordinating with a personal assistant, in which case the personal assistant will be responsible for the scheduling and the sending of the Zoom. But you want to make sure you stay on the ball. The quicker you're able to respond to emails, the better of an impression it makes of you, especially when you're first getting started and you're first introduced to somebody. And then you have your first meeting. You want to come to every single Zoom meeting you have with a mentor with a game plan of the things you want to talk about already planned out. Limit it to no more than 3, because you're likely not going to be able to cover more than 3 in about an hour. And that's what these meetings were. They were about an hour long. You could schedule more if needed. You could do email follow-ups, but you generally don't want to ask for more than an hour of their time, because they are really busy. So come to the meeting with 3 things prepared of what you want to talk about. And once you have scheduled the meeting, you send a follow-up saying, hey, thank you so much for scheduling. I look forward to meeting with you. I would like to talk about XYZ at this upcoming meeting. I look forward to, speaking with you on this day, right? It's important that in your email, whenever you're scheduling with them, that you mention what you want to talk about, so they can come to the meeting prepared with what you want to say. It also shows initiative, like you're already thinking about what you want to spend that meeting focusing on. You show up to the meeting, be on time, look presentable, generally be in a place that is well kept, have a nice background if you don't have access to a place that is well kept, and then be prepared to know what you want to talk about. You will be the one leading the meeting. It will not be them leading the meeting, which can seem daunting when you're dealing with people who are a lot more experienced than you. You need to show that confidence. That confidence is what earns you their respect, and it's what makes that relationship possible, right? So you don't need to be domineering, but you should not really let there be awkward silence or wait for them to start saying things. You should just go into the meeting and say, hey, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to meet with me. I'm very excited to meet you today. If you're doing introductions, start with yourself, or have them give a little bit about their background, and then after they give a bit about their background, you share your background with them, and then we could be like, oh, we like doing this, and we're similar in these ways, or I noticed you said XYZ, this I can help you with XYZ, form common ground, right? and then identify how they can help you. Because ideally, you don't want to ask a mentor for assistance in something that's not their specialty, because it means that you don't really know them that well. So during that introductory meeting, get to know what they specialize in, get to know what they're good at, what they can help you with, and then only come to them for stuff that is within that expertise, right? So you go through that introductory meeting. After the meeting is over, after you've led the meeting, you know, obviously say pleasantries at the end, thank them for their time. You want to send a follow-up email. Thank you so much for meeting with me today. As always, I have a great time talking to you. I learned XYZ, and it's going to be really helpful for this project that I'm working on. It'd be great if we could aim to meet next sometime in the next month, you know, and that gives them a point of reference of when they can expect you to get back in contact with them to schedule the next meeting. That is the biggest tip I can give if you want meetings to be on a semi-frequent basis, is prime them of when you're going to get in contact with them next, right? And then you just continue that cycle over and over and over. Like, you don't need to prep an agenda or anything for the meetings. You just need to come goal-oriented, what you want to have accomplished, what you want to talk about, and then just be prepared to lead that meeting. Be friendly, be charismatic, be open, be passionate about what you're working on. Be ready with questions, ready to engage, and they'll meet you, you know, after you develop a relationship with your mentors, this is something that I always do. I always send them holiday cards. You know, I reach out whenever something happens. So like Daniel, he just had a child. She's so adorable. So I sent him like a congratulations email when that happened. You know, always on the holidays, I like make custom, you know, holiday cards. I send it to them. I let them know what's happening in my life. So if I win an award or something that they helped me out with really helped me, I send them an email and I'm like, hey, thank you so much for chatting with me about this last meeting. I actually was able to do this thanks to your aid. And I look forward to meeting with you next. You know, you want to make them feel like they're having an impact in your life. I heard this from somebody, I don't exactly remember who, but you know, all relationships are essentially a give and take. There must be mutual benefit between the two parties in order for it to be beneficial and worthwhile for them. And when you're in a mentor-mentee relationship, as the mentee, you don't really have that much to offer when you first get started. You know, you can't like siphon over, you know, talent to this person. You don't have really money, you know, you can't work for them quite yet. So you don't have that much to give. What you do have to give is gratitude. And showing that they're making an impact in your life is the biggest way that you show that gratitude to them. And that's what you give when you're first getting started. Later on, they'll ask you for favors when you have the capacity to provide them with favors. But to start, it's all about gratitude and being respectful and really saying, hey, I was able to do this because of you. Thank you, you know. I hope that answered your question. And this applies not just for mentors in this scholarship. You should all be actively hunting for mentors in whatever professional field you are pursuing. Why? Because they can make the difference in you getting like the dream job of your career. It can make the difference between you winning that award, you getting those killer recommendation letters, or you advancing your own skill set. Always look for mentors. Looking for mentors can seem scary, but most people are more than willing to like respond to you on LinkedIn. If you do a cold email and you genuinely have something you want to ask somebody, just send them that email. You know, don't just reach out if you have no purpose to reach out, because nobody likes that. But if you genuinely have a reason to reach out, connect with, and you want to learn something specific from someone, most often they are going to be open to it. I've never had one of my mentors, like they've come to speak at my class multiple times, and all of them are always like, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'd be happy to, you know, connect with me on LinkedIn. They're all very there to support the next generation. So sometimes all you really need is that little bit of courage to reach out. Don't constrain yourself, you know, based on that. Obviously, don't pester or harass people either. Like I said, genuinely have a reason to reach out, but just take those initial steps. So these tips can apply to just any type of mentor. Yes. Any other questions? Yes.
Sorry, I don't want to, but I do also want to know, especially because like applications like are increasing like every year. There are a lot of automated systems. do you know if the person's actually looking at your initial application or if it's an automated system? And if it's an automated system, like how do you make sure check all of its marks?
That's an interesting question. So I can ask the scholarship coordinator how they go through the initial scholarship review, but one thing that I do know is that my mentors directly saw my application. They saw my portfolio. Why? Because they mentioned that to me and they mentioned that it stood out to them. And so they do have some say in the selection process, and that is an individual. So I would hope that it's still like that. And like I said, 10,000 applicants is not a small number. And that was the number of applicants the year that I applied. So the fact that a person was looking through all of those applications that year makes me pretty hopeful. But like honestly, I think as long as you try your best to hit what they're looking for on the application, you should be good. And it's not like you can automate portfolio reviews. I don't think we're quite there yet. So that will definitely be somebody, like an actual person looking at it. And videos as well, you know, because you can choose to submit a video instead of an essay. So I would say that it's a pretty human process, but I don't really see that side of the scholarship program. I'm happy to ask the scholarship coordinator and get back to you with more information if you want to give me your email after the fact. Any other questions? Yes.
I don't know if this was asked prior, but I'm just curious, out of your all your mentors, like in terms of all the helpful information you got, I mean you probably got a lot, maybe like 200 some, but did you get like specific advice or kind of like any of them suggesting or really trying to like motivate you toward like a startup or like getting toward starting your own startup or joining one as soon as possible?
Yeah, so specifically related to startups, they've all been super supportive, and I'm actually a co-founder for a startup that is, like, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
And they've helped me with that startup, you know, quite often,
Okay.
and they really genuinely want to see it succeed.
Okay. I guess I should like kind of refocus my question.
Yeah.
Would they sort of like advise or suggest they should probably try to get it started or into the game as soon as possible versus kind of like, you know, waiting on it or having like a stealth startup, like a term I heard around here. It's like, yeah, I'm working on one, but it's not like out there yet.
So they are the people to pitch your crazy ideas to, and they will tell you if it's legit or if it's not legit.
Okay.
And that is helpful.
Oh, yeah.
They will not pull their punches on giving feedback, you know, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, depending on, you know, how you take feedback. I'm always open to feedback, but they have been super encouraging regardless of whether it's positive feedback or constructive feedback. So like, for example, all of the experiences that I've taken on have been quite ambitious for the amount of skill that I did have at the time that I took them on. And these people made me feel confident taking on those positions. They were super encouraging, super supportive. They provided you with insights because they have that experience themselves. They've never really told me, don't do that, you know. They've given me advice like maybe, you know, do it this way instead, or maybe you should try this approach instead. But if you're genuinely passionate about something, they will help you figure out how to get it done, right?
So in that case, like the no pulling punches, constructive criticism is definitely helpful because I mean,
Yes.
I think the startup failure rate is about 90-ish%.
Yeah.
And let's not even talk about the unicorns.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a few mentors. Whenever we sit down for one of our mentor meetings, and I have shared with them, hey, I want to review this design I made for my startup. You know, at the beginning of the meeting, they're always like, I'm sorry if this comes across as harsh, but I have some feedback for you. They always apologize for it. I'm like, stop apologizing, please. Just give it to me straight. You know, that's the only way I'm gonna learn, right? So they're not like rude about it. They're never rude. They're professionals, right? But they will not sugarcoat things that need to be said. And that is so much more beneficial to me, in my opinion, than somebody who sugarcoats something and does not provide you with the full extent of the criticism that they want to give, right? Because it's essentially cop-out, you know, feedback if they do that. So they are the people who will give it to you straight, and I appreciate that about them.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do you want to go ahead and ask the one that you have?
Yes, so, first one, sorry. I was going to ask, like, is there a, something like a UMD network of the design battles or people who are interested in design? Like, do you know if there is a network existing or is still active?
Kind of. So, there is a club on campus called UX Terps, and they focus specifically on UX stuff. They host meetings and they do projects together, so that's a way to meet people. Other than that, I'm not really aware of any other networks on campus specifically related to design. I mean, I try to put together a network for the class that I teach. We do have a Discord, and it has all of the students that have ever been in there. I don't really do the best job managing it and encouraging cross-class communication, and that's just because I haven't had the time to. After I graduate, I likely will start doing that and posting more opportunities in there. But yeah, that's the one that I know of is UX Terps. Any other questions? All right. Well, that is me. If you want to link with me on LinkedIn, you are more than welcome to. I'm always here to answer questions and to give you advice. And if you have any further questions about the scholarship, feel free to just send me a message on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to respond. If you have questions about the class that I teach, I'm always happy to answer those questions. We're just talking about UX in general. I enjoy doing that stuff, so feel free to link with me. You don't have to if you don't want to either. But yeah, thank you guys for being here today. I appreciate your attention, and yeah, if you ever have any more questions, feel free to reach out.